Wasn't sure how. Where did it go? Well, that was a very exciting start to our very first YouTube live stream. So, you know, it can't get much worse, right? Starting strong. So I'm just grabbing this with the camera mount. That was hilarious. I figured I'd go live a couple of minutes early and let people show up. I only have this gooseneck, gooseneck mount for the camera setup. A little crooked still. Man, it's tough. Tough to figure out. Hang on, somebody's back. All right. So, hi, welcome to the live stream. I know we're a few minutes early. I'm going to get my timer started. So we can go ahead and get moving here in a minute. But I'm gonna let some folks show up first and give them a few minutes. Today, though, for anybody who's watching this later, last week we tried to live stream here on YouTube and had some technical difficulties, so we ended up live streaming in the Bullseye Blank Drops Facebook page. So if you're not already part of the Bullseye community Facebook group, I should say, it's a great group. There's over 1,200 members of fellow woodturners and knife makers and all kinds of cool people in there who share their creations and share their ideas and questions, and I show off new products and all those kinds of things. So I know that we're new to YouTube, but we've been around for 4.5 years now, and wow, that's a long time. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, that's kind of wild. While we wait for some folks to show up, I am going to copy the link and go post it over to cool beans. So like I said, last week we did a live stream. It went a little haywire in the sense that we started off kind of rough, couldn't figure out how to get live on YouTube, went live in the Facebook group instead. So welcome to the first official live stream for Bullseye Turning Supply. Last week we turned one of the Artemis pen kits, which is one of our 2 flagship kits here at Bullseye. They are exclusive to us. They're our design. So you get a little instruction booklet with each of those kits that kind of shows you how they work, and they are both closed-end kits. So last week we turned this, but then we ran into a little bit of an issue, and I've already started the repair because I wanted to make sure it was ready for the live stream. But basically I trimmed on, you can see on this side what it's supposed to look like, right? So it's supposed to be a closed-end pen, but last week when we were doing this, I trimmed the end too close, and I actually went through the hole that we drilled for the cap. And so that became an issue. Obviously, you don't want that. So what I did was I filled it in with some UV resin, let that cure. And so now we are ready to go ahead and fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. You use one of these closed-end mandrels that we sell at Bullseye, and this just threads on like so. And I'm actually going to flip the camera around and point you down at the lathe so that we can, you know, show how we're going to fix this little boo-boo. So, pardon me while I move the camera. Just 1 second. I should really get multiple camera setups, and I will as we do more of these, so please bear with me as I'm still working out the kinks on doing this. So I think that we're damn close, but let me see what I can do here to get this dang gooseneck to behave itself. You know what? I'm just gonna move the whole darn thing. Because it seems to not want to be where I want it to be. So there we go. All right. There we go. Better. That's much better. Okay, great. So we covered up that end with the, let me tighten that up, with the UV resin. And so now we just want to come in here and trim that so that it's nice and flat. And you can see that, you know, because we are unsupported on this end, we want to be very, very gentle with this cut. So I've got the lathe at about 3,000 RPM. And I'm just going to very gently, I'm going to support it with my other hand. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we are nice and flat over here. I actually think it might be better to do something like that. Yeah, that looks so much better. Okay. Yeah, so now you can see that we're flat right here. And what I'm doing next is I actually have two different options for fixing this. I bought a couple of earrings off of Amazon after we made this mistake last week. And they're both very similar. They're both like a blue opal kind of thing. And so one of these is going to end up as our inlay fix. But fortunate for us, they are approximately the same diameter. So we can just go ahead and drill this. Let me remind myself real quick what the bit is. It's 11/32. I measured this ahead of time off camera. And so first, before we drill that, we are going to grab a center drill. Just to make sure that we are dead center on this blank. Because the last thing we want to do is mess this up again. So let me go ahead and put our Jacob's chuck in the tailstock, and then I have this great Jacob's chuck. I highly recommend that. That is a keyless chuck, so you don't need a chuck key to tighten it. It just tightens by hand, which is fantastic. So we're going to turn the lathe speed back down to about 1,000. Bring that up nice and close, and then go ahead and drill. All right. If you've never used one of these before, the center drill, the way it works is you want to make sure that you drill, come on, focus. You don't want to drill past this shoulder here, or it's kind of pointless. You want to go somewhere on this angle is where you want to stop. And that's where the tip of your drill bit will engage in what is essentially a pre-drill at this point. So now we can go ahead and drill this part. We certainly do not have to drill deep. We just want to make sure that we have a nice centered hole. And now, because both of these are approximately the same size, what I want to do is trim the back of this off, and I'm just going to use a pair of diagonal cutters to do that. And it would help if I could find my diagonal cutters, but I do have a pair of needle nose with a cutter on it, so that should be good. So now we have, still has a little bit of a nubbin on it, but that should be okay. You can also try to break that off, but that doesn't always work. So now we put that in there and see what kind of fit we have. And wow, that is a tight fit. That looks awesome. That's pretty spectacular, actually. So it's going to be really hard to get that back out because it's such a snug fit. So I would typically not take this blank off of its mandrel until I was done, but I actually think I'm going to need a little help getting that out. Oh, there it goes. But I don't know. Do you guys prefer that one? I think I prefer that one. I think that one looks better. The other one's a little too three-dimensional for me, but this one looks really good. And if I really press it in there, I mean, dang, that looks phenomenal. So I want to drill it out just a tiny, tiny bit more. I poke this one back out. And I'm going to break, or attempt to break, I should say, this post off of here. It doesn't really want to break. It's really well made. There it goes. All right. So that'll fit in there really nicely. I just want to go ahead and drill it a hair more. All right. That should be good. And then we'll do one more test fit. Yeah, buddy. That looks awesome. That's pretty great. So now we gotta poke it back out again. Just a center punch. All right, there we go. So now you can see we have a nice clean hole drilled, but we still need to sand and complete this blank. So I'm not going to glue that in yet because I want to get all of our finishing done first. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way. And I'm going to grab, pardon my reach, my little plastic guy, because I don't want to drip any CA or anything else onto my lathe bed. And then I'm just going to grab some, probably 400 Abranet. To dry sand this, and actually to round this over also, because that's kind of got a little sharpness to that corner. So the lathe is back down to about 900. Let me see if it'll show me any comments. I've never used... Yeah, I don't know how to get it to show me comments. I've never used YouTube Live, so... And then we just want to make sure that we get a good sand on this edge here also. And this is why I drilled it a little extra deep, because I knew I was going to sand this. Alrighty. So that's looking great. We just want to give it a little radial sand. And I've been thinking a lot about whether or not we should CA this. And I'm honestly not sure. I don't know what is going to look better, but I think that if it was just solid wood and it didn't have the resin in there, I would definitely do a friction polish, but because it's the cholla and the resin together, I think we're going to do CA. I think that'll come out better. So, in order to do a CA finish on this, I want to make sure that I don't get CA on my mandrel, because that would be kind of crappy. So I'm taking some blue tape. You don't need a lot. But I'm just going to take this blue tape, and I'm actually going to cut it in half, because it's really wide. So, 1 second. Okay. So we're just going to get that up on there and wrap our mandrel with the tape. And then we are going to press down on the fold so that when we put our pen blank up against it, we get a nice snug fit without anything interfering. So now we're going to take just some isopropyl alcohol. It's a lot easier to get here in California than denatured alcohol. And they are almost the same. Not quite, but almost. So we're just going to get a little bit of that to clean off the blank. And I just get mine from the local pharmacy. And then we can go ahead and clean out any of that drilling schmutz, any of that sanding dust. That's all. Clean as a whistle now. So I like to use boiled linseed oil to wipe down my blanks before I do a CA finish. It's something that a lot of old school turners swear by. I would not consider myself an old school turner by any means, but this particular trick has always worked for me. And it might not be as necessary with the cholla, but you know, when you're used to it, you just do it. And then I'm just going to buff off any excess with the clean part of the rag. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So now we have our boiled linseed oil. We're going to grab some thin CA. I'm using this stuff from Turner's Warehouse. They're good friends of mine. It's Bob Smith Industries CA glue, which is specifically formulated as a finish. And it's really nice stuff. And then, if you were watching last week's live stream, you'll remember I said that my finger cuts were really at the bottom of the barrel, and I forgot to order more. So hopefully I don't get CA all over my fingers. But we're going to turn the lathe all the way down to about 300. And we're going to put a little bit of CA on here. And wipe that into the blank. We want to make sure that we don't forget this corner up here. We want to make sure that that is very nicely coated, because that is the easiest spot to sand through later on. Got a spritz of activator. And I try to get it on the blank and then on the end also. And then we'll go ahead and we'll do a second coat. All right, so that's going to be it for the thin CA, and then we're going to move on to a medium. Same brand. Brand new bottle, because I was having some issues with my old bottle. And then we got our medium. Spritz. So now we're on our first coat of medium after 2 coats of thin. I'm going to do another coat. Spritz. At this point, I like to take a look at it. And it's looking pretty dang awesome. It looks really, really good. Here's coat number 3 of the medium. We are going to have to re-drill that hole just to clean up the CA glue from it. But that's not the end of the world by any means. I'm just changing out finger cots. So I think we're on 4 coats of medium. Maybe a little more than that. And that should be good. Yeah, that's looking awesome. So very quickly, we're going to grab that same drill bit that we just used, turn up our speed a little bit, move our plastic, and clean up this hole. There we go. You don't need to completely re-drill it. You just want to clean up that CA glue, and you want to do it before you sand in case there's any issues. So now I've got some 400 of the Abranet again, and I'm going to wet sand. And I'm just doing this to get any lumps out. Need a little piece of paper towel to wipe that off. You want to make sure you get the majority of the lumps out at this point. with those lower grits. And all of my Zona papers got mixed up earlier. So, excuse me while I put them back in the right order. I can feel a lump right here, so I probably have to go back to that Abernet. Let's see if we can see what's causing that. Yeah, got a weird little lump right there. It's very bizarre. All right, let's go ahead and go back to this. See if we can't get that out. Yeah, that's much better. All right, we'll quickly go back to our green Zona. And that is looking pretty awesome. So we'll go to our next one. We're just going to keep moving through these grits and polishing this bad boy up. And then when we're done, we'll glue in that little earring on the end. That looks really, really good. Last one. All right. Cool. Now let's move over to the workbench and we will work on gluing this in. So, pardon me while you guys go on a little adventure. Whee! Please excuse my very messy workbench and all my crap. There you go. Alright, so let's get rid of some of this. Stop that from jumping all over the place. Here's that other earring. We'll use that for another one at some point. So one of the things I don't love about this right now is that the CA on the edge is pretty rough. So this is still wet, and I'm just going to very gently sand those rough spots off. Perfect. It's just the tiniest little piece. So now we're going to I'm going to use the other side of this that's not wet. And we're just going to need a Q-tip and a little bit of glue. So I'm going to just put a little dab of glue here. Come on. Oh, that's the wrong one. Ha-ha. Ha-ha. Hadn't opened that one yet. All right. Maybe a little more. And I don't want to get any of this glue on the finished sides here. So actually, maybe I want to use a Q-tip. I mean, not a Q-tip, a toothpick. So, Q-tips and toothpicks are two of the most underrated shop tools, in my opinion. So, I am going to coat the inside of this with the CA. Very, very carefully and gently. We don't need a lot by any means. And then I'll use the Q-tip to clean up any excess before pressing in our buddy here. And I'm going to use an extra Q-tip that I have here that's clean to get that seated correctly. And that looks pretty darn good as a fix. And I'll probably have to give that another little barely tiny polish. I'm going to spray it with the activator and wipe any of that excess off. And that is nice and solid in there now. So now we can go ahead and finish the body. Let's get you guys set back up over on the lathe. Whee! There we go. That's better. All right, so now we can take this mandrel off of here, clean up that tape. Good as new. And now we have a separate mandrel for the body because they're different threads. But we're going to do the same thing and tape this off. And I'm just going to use the other half of the piece of tape that I used earlier. If I can get it to stick. Because you don't want to get this glue in those threads. Sure doesn't want to stick, but there we go. All right. And again, we just want to press that down as much as we can. So, second verse is same as the first. We're going to go ahead and grab our 400 Abranet dry and get a good sand on this. And once again, we're going to knock this corner off. I always wipe that extra dust off before grabbing the alcohol to properly clean it. And I just love that first look. So that'll dry very, very fast, and we can go ahead and get the boiled linseed oil on. Let's see if I can. Yeah, that's better. Get our boiled linseed going. Alright, that looks beautiful. And we're going to go back to our thin CA. And one of the questions I get a lot is why a finger cut and why not use, a piece of paper towel. And honestly, it's just that the paper towel soaks up so much of the CA that you end up, you can have like a lumpy finish. So, whoop, a little too much. That's why we put down the plastic. Rolling over that edge. Nice and smooth. Grab our activator and spritz. Now for a second coat. And spritz. All right, moving on to our medium. Use a little more than that. Spritz. Coat number 2 of medium. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. Now in this particular blank, I'm going to cut this off because we definitely rolled over that edge. So I'm just going to very slowly and carefully run my blade along the seam of the tape in the blank. I'm going to do it one more time just to clean up any residue. All right. They were pretty smooth for the most part, so we're going to use the 400 and get any of the bigger lumps out. Then before we move on, we just want to hit this radially, get out any of those swirls. And I actually want to replace this zone of paper, so let's grab a new set. I just got to peel this staple off. And my little trick, because on the white paper, I always lose track of what side is what, I put a little X. All right. Accidentally grabbed 2. You can really see that shine starting to take place. Let's go ahead and go radially also. I love how this is coming out. Just got 2 more here. It's very weird not being able to see the comments because it makes it feel extremely quiet in here. But I still appreciate everybody watching. And maybe YouTube's not the answer. Maybe we need to do Instagram Live or Facebook Live. But, it's tough because you want to reach as many people as possible, too. So we'll probably put out a poll. All right. That is absolutely stunning. So we can go ahead and take that off. Wow. And then I'm going to grab where are my parts go? So I've got some parts for this kit that we have to go ahead and install. First, we'll drop in the spring. Boop. And then we've got our ink cartridge and our section. Dang. That is awesome. And then the piece de resistance. Screwing that back on. And actually, I was messing with this earlier. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see it's perfectly lined up on that grain. Is it this one? No, I had it. I had it the first time. Yeah. So that grain lines up absolutely beautifully. The end of this could maybe use a little bit better polishing, but that's okay. I can go back and do that. And then there's that beautiful fix. Thank you guys so much for joining us on YouTube today. I'm so thrilled with this pen. I think this is probably one of the best that I've made lately. There's a couple little things I want to fix. I'm going to do a little bit of doctoring on here. And I'm probably going to repolish this bottom. I wasn't really looking at that. I was really looking at the sides. But the beauty of these kits is that there's nothing to punch out. If I wanted to put this back on the lathe, all I would have to do is unscrew this, take out the ink, and put that back on and repolish it. So that's pretty awesome. I really appreciate you guys. If you're out in the Arizona area, come check us out at the Turner's Warehouse open house in a couple of weeks. That's going to be on the 7th and 8th of February. And until then, I will see you next week for another live turning. All right. Bye, y'all.